Cello, cello, cello. Happy Tuesday evening. I tried to go to sleep because I do have something I have to do early in the morning, but I was very troubled by President-elect Donald Trump decision on saying the Smithsonian Museum shows just how bad slavery was. And President-elect Donald J. Trump, okay, and with every president, we're not going to like everything that they do or say. But now I've got to school you on something. President-elect Donald J. Trump. Slavery was bad, okay? It was bad. Don't try to whitewash Black history. Okay, so President-elect Donald J. Trump, you know, and with every president, there's good and bad. But this, when it comes to my Black history, you ain't ready to whitewash my Black history. Now, I don't know if I came from Africa, slaves or whatever, but slavery did exist, and it was bad, okay? Don't try to whitewash it. Now, let me school you on just what slavery is, okay?
Slavery is a system that includes forced labor in which people are held against their will. People used as slaves don't have the freedom to make decisions about their work because they are bought and sold like property. Working conditions are generally very poor for them, and in many cases they are physically abused if directions from their owners are not followed closely. Enslaved people could be men, women, and even young children. Before the United States won the Revolutionary War and was officially recognized as an independent nation in 1783, Africans were forced to come to America to work in slavery. Slavery was part of American society through the end of the Civil War. People used as slaves could be found throughout the country, but there were many more in the South. Southern plantation owners, farmers, relied heavily on enslaved labor and believed that they needed them to keep their economy strong. Crops such as tobacco and cotton were an important part of the Southern economy. However, they were also difficult to grow because of the number of people needed for planting and harvesting. The economy in the North relied much more on manufacturing and industry. Over time, slavery was eliminated in the North, which was made possible in part by the region's minimal reliance on slavery. Abolitionists were both
Oh my God. Hold on. Hold on, y'all. Oh my God. Oh, well, Hold on, because I'm not ready to pay $29.99 for that. Y'all hold on. Let me find y'all something else on just exactly what slavery was. Hold on. Hold on. Pay the realist. Yeah, you know, um, Donald J. Trump wants to try to whitewash black history. Whew. So we getting ready to give him a little crash course on exactly what was slavery. And yeah, hey, Patties.
Finding good, unbiased, trustworthy advice
You
on
know,
water quality,
he's trying
not to
to
mention the right filtration for your home or
whitewash
office.
our black
The
history.
Wise Channel celebrates Black history. Slavery is when people own other people. It's wrong and terrible, but also a huge part of American history. Most African slaves were kidnapped from their homes and packed tightly onto a ship, sometimes for several months. Many slaves died on the ships from disease or starvation. The first slaves arrived in the American colonies in 1619. When they arrived in America, slave families were separated from each other at auctions, where white slave owners bought, sold, and traded them. Can you imagine that? Your mother is sold off to a man from Kentucky, your father is sold to Florida, your sister to Missouri, and you are bought by a slave owner from Virginia. That's it. You never see your family again. That's how it was for slaves for almost 250 years in America. Slaves worked on farms called plantations for their whole lives and were never paid. This went on for hundreds of years because many white Americans thought their race was better than the Africans. Also, slave owners kept all the money from their slaves' hard work. Did you know several presidents owned slaves? George Washington owned over 300 slaves. Thomas Jefferson owned over 600 slaves and hurt some of them very badly. In fact, Presidents George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, Andrew Jackson, Martin Van Buren, William Henry Harrison, John Tyler, James Polk, and Zachary Taylor all owned slaves while they were president. Over time, states in the North made slavery illegal, and many slaves tried to escape to freedom on the Underground Railroad, which was a network of homes, people, and hideouts that helped slaves run away to the North. Slaves who were caught escaping were hurt badly or even worse. When Abraham Lincoln became president, the Southern states were afraid he would outlaw slavery, so they made their own country called the Confederacy. The South wanted slaves so much that they were willing to go to war to keep them. This started the Civil War, which the North eventually won, and the South rejoined the United States. In 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation set all slaves in the South free. In 1865, the 13th Amendment was added to the Constitution, making slavery illegal in the United States. The nightmare of slavery was over, but there were still many challenges ahead for African Americans. You may be thinking that was a long time ago. Why are we talking about slavery now? One reason is because it's a huge part of American history. Another reason is slavery still has an effect on us today. And most importantly, we should talk about slavery to make sure we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. Let's talk. Imagine your family is being sold at a slave auction. How would you feel? Did you know so many presidents owned slaves? What do you think about that? How does slavery still have an effect on us today? Have you subscribed to the Wise Channel yet? If not, do it right now. And make sure you hit that little bell icon.
Yeah, I know, Patty. I can't even imagine neither. Now, just to give y'all a reason why I, I should be in bed because I'm going to greet students back to school, is we got our president-elect Donald Trump trying to whitewash Black history with the Smithsonian Museum. And so, this is what's going on now. See, Trump escalates attack against Smithsonian Museum, saying that there's too much focus on how bad slavery was. This was today that he had the nerve to say this. So, he is trying to whitewash Black history. You know, it's weird. You want to rewrite history. You can't rewrite history. And yes, slavery was bad. It was bad. But, you know,
here's how President Trump is defending his review of some of the top museums in the country.
We want the museums to treat our country fairly. We want the museums to talk about the history of our country in a fair manner, not in a woke manner or in a racist manner.
Director Spike Lee has items featured at several Smithsonian museums. And when we recently linked up to talk about his latest film, Highest to Lowest, I asked him what he thought the goals of this review are.
To roll back the clock. To roll back the clock. And what's interesting is that the world leaders, they know what's going on here too. The citizens of the world know what's happening here in the United States, formerly the so-called beacon of democracy. It don't look like that now.
And you don't think America is still the beacon of democracy?
You know, you got to choose countries or people, individuals by their actions. And I don't think that the actions now in this administration show that doesn't look like the beacon of democracy. Beacon of democracy to me, in my opinion.
so, you know, Trump is saying these museums, hey, the Bud Fouls, Patty, the realist Susan, Pan, hey, Pan. I mean, you know, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, really? He goes to the museum and now all of a sudden he wants to say slavery wasn't that bad. Okay, come on. So he's trying to whitewash American history. Hold on. Hey, writers. He is trying to whitewash Black history. He says the Smithsonian Museum is out of order and slavery was not all that bad. Yes, slavery was bad. It's part of American history. But I mean, he wants to whitewash black history. Hold on. Dang it, come on. Like, you making me think you another Joe Biden up in there. Where's your man? You done lost your man. Okay, here we go. We're gonna hear exactly.
Welcome to Village Ford in Dearborn.
Hold on.
Have you ever visited a Ford dealer that's earned the Ford Triple Crown Award 16 times in a row?
Hey, Ryder. How you doing?
Only 8 dealers in the USA can say this. We are the metro area's trusted choice for all of your automotive needs. Our award-winning team will help you get the best deals.
Hold on, y'all.
Finance options.
I can't even skip some commercials sometimes. I don't.
Michigan Avenue.
And I ain't ready to pay no.
Today.
Okay, this is what the president said.
We want the museums to treat our country fairly. We want the museums to talk about the history of our country in a fair manner, not in a woke manner or in a racist manner, which is what many of them, not all of them, but many of them are doing. Our museums have an obligation to represent what happened in our country over the years, good and bad, but what happened over the years in an accurate way.
What happened in the way was slavery happened, Donald Trump, and you can't freaking whitewash black history. Hey, Keller. So, Donald Trump, slavery was bad. There's nothing good that can be said about slavery. Okay? Nothing good. Nothing good. It's all bad. I didn't get my 40 acres and a mule. Patents were stolen from my people. There's no generational wealth for my people. So, hold on. Keith Williams, it's over, but it's part of history. And yes, are you going to give me 40 acres and a mule that was promised to me? My ancestors built this country. They worked this country. They made pick cotton, worked in the tobacco fields, did not get paid. Now, and I will ask you to please kindly leave because I don't have to answer nothing to you. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can get up out of here.
I've never owned anyone. My neighbors, as far as I know, have never been owned by anyone. But the people who say we don't owe any reparations for the Civil War are ignoring something really huge. Or maybe they just don't know. Some people already got reparations. White people. white enslavers were paid for losing their human property. The actual people who were raped, tortured, whipped, and sold, and worse, were promised land to get a fresh start after the war, but they got nothing. When slavery was abolished, Congress paid nearly $1 million, which is 30 million in today's bucks, to white enslavers as compensation for losing their property in a war they lost. If a freed person didn't hit the road fast enough, they risked being re-enslaved under new laws that were just workarounds for all these white people losing their slaves. After the Civil War ended, Union General Sherman set aside 400,000 acres of confiscated Confederate land for Black families to start new lives on, up to 40 acres each. The Army loaned out mules to help them work the land. That's where the phrase 40 acres and a mule comes from. Black people were already working some of this land when Lincoln was assassinated and Andrew Johnson became president. Well, Johnson reversed the order. He gave the land back to the same Confederates who had just tried to destroy the country. The freed people were evicted. So they made all these things into crimes that were non-crimes. They were things like, if a Black person didn't have a job, that was a crime. If a Black person couldn't prove that they had a job, that was a crime. You could get arrested for that and a lot of other ridiculous things. But once you were in jail, you could be leased out as labor for private profit. This system of convict leasing allowed white landowners and businesses to replace slavery with something just as violent, just as profitable as slavery. No wonder there are still Confederate flags all across the South. Even after slavery was abolished, Black Americans were not safe. Public lynchings became a regular threat. They were a form of terror used to keep free people in their place. They were planned events announced in advance so everybody could attend. They were held in broad daylight. White families brought their children to watch Black people being hanged, tortured, brutally murdered. It was a festival. People sold food. There were postcards made. People could buy postcards of the mutilated bodies hanging from trees, mail them in the mail, or keep them as souvenirs. This country took care of Civil War criminals and punished the ones the war was supposed to free. And there was a lot more abuse I just can't fit into this video. This time I'm going to talk about the stuff that happened in relation to the Great Depression and World War II. And then after that, I'll have one on civil rights, the era when I was growing up, how it all ties in to the racism that is part and parcel of our grand land today. White people, you especially need to get curious. Join me in this research, and you'll find that people are willing and able to come in with their education and their experience to help you learn. You just have to be open to it. We need to be willing to be uncomfortable.
So there you have it. So Donald Trump, slavery was bad. And you can't whitewash history. And so I don't care about no immigrants. I don't care about nobody right now that's in this country that was not born here, that got more rights than me, got more money than me, that was given free housing for so many years and free food stamps. Oh, okay. So the immigrants, the new Negroes, hey, Keller, they gonna tell the migrants, they 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 they're not bringing them over here to do the jobs. They say they want the black people to go back to picking the fruits and vegetables and stuff. But Trump, I disagree with you on this. I'm calling you out. And just to remind everybody, just what he's trying to do. He is trying to whitewash black history and say slavery was not that bad. And slavery was bad. I mean, what? I'm just trying to understand, you know, it wasn't good. It was bad. So what does he expect people to do? I mean, you know, Trump says, let me make sure y'all read this real good. Oh, I guess I might have to go back to paying this money for StreamYard. But he said the Smithsonian Museum focuses too much on how bad slavery was. Slavery was bad. There was nothing good about it. Like, what are you trying to do? I mean, you can't make this shit up.
Meanwhile, Garrett, President Trump, focusing on Washington streets there, also seems to be eyeing some potential changes to some of the Capitol's most important museums. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's right. Citing next year's 250th American anniversary celebrations, the administration is now reviewing the Smithsonian. Those are the free museums around D.C., their exhibitions, materials, and operations to ensure, quote, alignment with the president's directive to celebrate American exceptionalism, remove divisive or partisan narratives, and restore confidence in our shared cultural institutions. That's according to a White House letter obtained by NBC News. That letter also orders corrections where necessary. Critics have slammed this move as an attack on the Smithsonian's independence, arguing that the review could be used to effectively rewrite history, to impose the president's views in some of the country's most important and influential museums. Correct?
Our senior White House correspondent there, Garrett Hickforce. Garrett, thank you.
So, President Trump, you full of shit. I want to make this clear.
A Connecticut man learned.
I want to make this clear. Those migrants that came over here, they chose to come over here. Okay? Slavery was not a choice. We was forced, bought over in chains. Those people had a choice to come over here. They were offered incentives. So I don't give a darn about no immigrants that chose to come over here freely. I mean, they're human beings. I'm not mad at them for them being able to come over here, but they had a choice. They had a choice. They chose to come over here. Slaves were shackled and put on boats. Ships packed like sardines didn't die. So many people in the waters. I don't give a darn about the migrants. They had a choice. Slaves did not have a choice. You seen, seen Scott Costello. I appreciate your opinion. You said the Smithsonian's are liars. He's the only president who didn't own slaves. All the lies about slavery at the museum should be corrected. You know, seen as all races have been victims of slavery. So, Scott, you show me what races worked free, was separated from their families, was shackled. Okay, I respectfully, I will respect your opinion, but no, slavery is real. People were forced over here. They were separated, sold off. We built this country. Okay? The slaves built the United States of America. You stole our patents. We weren't given anything. We were promised 40 acres and a mule. Now you tell me what other race had that done to them? Anybody else that came over here took this country came free. Now, let me drop this link in case anybody wants to come up here. Let me drop the link. So Scott said the Smithsonians are liars. But let me drop this link. Hold on, y'all. I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready to drop the link. Y'all gotta bear with me. Okay, copied. Hold on. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna drop the link and I'm gonna let y'all come up here and we're gonna respectfully, you know, uh, um, I I believe everybody's opinion counts. You know, I want to know why the Smithsonian Museum, why they want to say they're lying. I want to know why people feel like they're exaggerating the truth. Slavery was bad. I'm just, oh my goodness. Hold on. There's the link, but hold on. I might have to do this another way because I've got it. Hold on, y'all. That's the link. And then, hold on. I'm on another device. I might have to put it. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna have to put this. Hold on. I'll be right back. Okay, everybody, hold on, hold on. I am putting the link. I put it again in the chat, and I just made a post on my community wall. We don't do that here. So CNN has videos too. So let me see what CNN has said. Okay, so let's see what Anderson Cooper has to say. Okay, Patty. So let's see what Anderson Cooper has to say. I dropped the link if anybody wants to come up.
When life crisis dropped, Vic could finally book his midlife crisis.
We begin tonight with the Trump administration spelling out just how deeply it intends to get involved in shaping or reshaping what we learn about this country in its history and culture. The place is the Smithsonian Institution. Today, the White House sent a letter to the head of the Smithsonian, one of the great museums of the world, which is actually 21 museums in all. In the letter, they made it clear to Smithsonian Secretary Lonnie Bunch III, writing that it wants what it wants and why from 8 of their museums initially, with more to come. Quoting now from the administration's letter, quote, "This initiative aims to ensure alignment with the president's directive to celebrate American exceptionalism, remove divisive or partisan narratives, and restore confidence in our shared cultural institutions." They're beginning a review of the Smithsonian's plan for celebrating the 250th anniversary of American independence next year, but that's hardly all. Even as it says the goal is not to interfere with day-to-day operations, the White House goes on to demand from each museum a full catalog of all current and ongoing exhibitions and budgets, a list of all traveling exhibitions and plans for the next 3 years, and all internal guidelines, including staff manuals, job descriptions, and organizational charts, along with internal communications about exhibition artwork selection and approval. The letter concludes with this: "By focusing on Americanism, the people, principles, and progress that define our nation, we can work together to renew the Smithsonian's role as the world's leading museum institution," which on its own might sound like a noble ambition, but it does not, of course, stand alone. It comes as part of what has been the administration's ongoing effort to purge government websites and American historical sites of references to Black Americans, gay and lesbian Americans, and transgendered Americans. At one point, even flagging for removal on a Pentagon website a photo of the B-29 bomber that dropped the first atomic bomb in combat. The plane was nicknamed the Enola Gay. A somewhat ironic Control-F fail, apparently, but also part and parcel of a deeply serious administration effort to eliminate from government websites any mention, photograph, or video that, quote, promotes diversity, equity, and inclusion. What followed was the elimination of references to Black and Latino war heroes, gay service members, and the effort to integrate the armed services starting in 1948. And what followed in March was an executive order targeting the Smithsonian for coming, quote, under the influence of a divisive race-centered ideology. Now, that order signaled out one of the 8 museums named in the letter today, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and specifically something someone wrote on a museum website once in 2020 and was quickly taken down, in which the Secretary Bunch, spoke about in front of Congress in 2023.
I think that the document itself was wrong and flawed. I do think, however, it's important for the Smithsonian to help the country grapple with questions of race. So I'm not going to run away from that. But I agree with you very much that that document is not the kind of document that should be at the Smithsonian.
He acknowledged it was inappropriate and wrong and took it down. But if you've ever been to this museum, in addition to being powerful and moving, it's upsetting and it is unsettling, just like parts of our history are. Parts of the administration has already taken steps to edit out or in, as the case may be. In June of 2020, protesters in Washington pulled down a statue of a Confederate Army General, Albert Pike. A short time later, the president, who was then running for re-election, said something that spoke to that moment, and it seems to this moment as well.
The left-wing mob is trying to vandalize our history, desecrate our monuments, our beautiful monuments, tear down our statues, and punish, cancel, and persecute anyone who does not conform to their demands for absolute and total control.
Well, last week, the National Park Service announced that the statue of Albert Pike, who was, just to repeat, a Confederate general, a traitor, would be restored to its place in the district to conform to recent executive orders, including the one in March to restore, quote, truth and sanity to American history.
No application fee if you apply by September 3rd at you.
So there you have it. I mean, you know, slavery is bad. I mean, it was bad. I don't know how we, you know, what Trump thinks he can do. I mean, slavery was bad. It was bad. It was bad.
This guy had a little girl and he was a slave in a brick kiln. The slave owner would not let him leave when his daughter was sick to seek medical treatment. And they said, you know what? She'll be fine. Nothing will happen to her. Just keep working. She turned for the worst. They begged to leave. He said, no, 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 no. Finish your work first. And then his daughter died. And he literally had to bury her at the brick kiln. And the owner wouldn't even let him bury his own daughter until after he'd finished making his bricks.
Bonded labor is slavery, where you're actually working out your loan and lose all the freedom that you have. It is usually on the basis of an advance, but then you belong to the owner after that. There is absolute restricted freedom of movement, restricted freedom of employment. You don't get the wages that you deserve. Somebody owns you and everything that you make. We have seen people trapped for generations on the basis of a very small loan amount, as small as $3 or $5. There are millions of people trapped under slavery, waiting for someone to show up. We are coming. We will find you. And we will free you. We will persevere till all are free.
So Mr. Robert Keller said that anybody that came over here, you were a migrant, unless you were a Native American. So, you know, again, the United States of America was built on the lie. The lies continue. But far as what I think about slavery, is black people that were brought over here on ships in chains, caged up, worked the lands, built this country, worked for free, babysit their kids. Well, they say some people are Native Americans. So you're saying there is no such thing as a Native American. So, and again, if you choose to come over here, that's a difference. Instead of being brought over here in shackles on ships and forced to work and not paid. The United States of America was built on a lie. The lies still continue, and I can only speak on the slavery that my people went through, that came over here in chains, shackles, boats. You know, let me tell you something. When you have those hurricanes, and when you have those hurricanes and those waters get messy, I believe those be the ancestors. Until America does right by our people, by giving us our reparations and 40 acres and a mule, there's gonna always be a reckoning. Yes, slavery was bad. Slavery was bad. And so, Tom White, thank you. If I'm a moron, let me be a moron. Slavery was bad. And so, we built this country. We built this country. You stole our patents. Everything was, all inventions were discovered by slaves. The slave owners, the people took the patents, stole everything from my ancestors. And I don't even know if they were my ancestors. But the black people that came over here, that invented everything that y'all use now, was invented by slaves. The patents was taken away by the slave owners or different people that went and got them patent, and that's a part of history. So yes, slavery was bad because we built this country. You took our patents, you took our ideas. Slaves built the White House, baby. Okay. We built this country. Tom White, you stop supplying them. Y'all bring them over here. We built this country. We built this country. We built this country. We built this country. You stole our patents. You stole our ideas. We built the White House. We had no formal educational training. The skills was inside of the ancestors, baby. Okay, they built the White House. Look how elegant it is. Look how elegant those plantations was, the ballrooms that the slaves built with no engineering degrees, no nothing. Oh we, oh y'all mad. Oh y'all mad. Oh y'all mad. What's that? What's that? Um You took Henrietta Lacks You took her sales. You're still doing it. She was a black woman. You took her sales, and you've been doing them on research to cure all kind of stuff. Henrietta Lacks, remember her? Remember her? They took her body, and they've been using her stem cells for research for everybody to stay alive. What has Trump done for the black community? What has any of them done? Can you give me a house? Can I stay somewhere for free? Can I get my mule? You know, my ancestors was old. They were slaves in Mississippi. They picked cotton. Let me see. You could get up to 40 acres and a mule over time. How much would that be now? Oh, wait a minute. Let me remind you, Mr. Tom White, what one of your fellow people said. Let me remind you. Let me remind y'all of y'all that
I've never owned anyone.
hold on.
My neighbors, as far as I know, have never been owned by anyone. But the people who say we don't owe any reparations for the Civil War are ignoring something really huge. Or maybe they just don't know. Some people already got reparations. White people. White enslavers were paid for losing their human property. The actual people who were raped, tortured, whipped, and sold, and worse, were promised land to get a fresh start after the war, but they got nothing. When slavery was abolished, Congress paid nearly $1 million, which is 30 million in today's bucks, to white enslavers as compensation for losing their property in a war they lost. If a freed person didn't hit the road fast enough, they risked being re-enslaved under new laws that were just workarounds for all these white people losing their slaves. After the Civil War ended, Union General Sherman set aside 400,000 acres of confiscated Confederate land for black families to start new lives on, up to 40 acres each. The Army loaned out mules to help them work the land. That's where the phrase 40 acres and a mule comes from. Black people were already working some of this land when Lincoln was assassinated and Andrew Johnson became president. Well, Johnson reversed the order. He gave the land back to the same Confederates who had just tried to destroy the country. The freed people were evicted. So they made all these things into crimes that were non-crimes. They were things like, if a black person didn't have a job, that was a crime. If a black person couldn't prove that they had a job, that was a crime. You could get arrested for that and a lot of other ridiculous things. But once you were in jail, you could be leased out as labor for private profit. This system of convict leasing allowed white landowners and businesses to replace slavery with something just as violent, just as profitable as slavery. No wonder there are still Confederate flags all across the South. Even after slavery was abolished, Black Americans were not safe. Public lynchings became a regular threat. They were a form of terror used to keep free people in their place. They were planned events announced in advance so everybody could attend. They were held in broad daylight. White families brought their children to watch Black people being hanged, tortured, brutally murdered. It was a festival. People sold food. There were postcards made. People could buy postcards of the mutilated bodies hanging from trees and mail them in the mail or keep them as souvenirs. This country took care of Civil War criminals and punished the ones the war was supposed to free. And there was a lot more abuse I just can't fit into this video. Next time I'm going to talk about the stuff that happened in relation to the Great Depression and World War II. And then after that, I'll have one on civil rights, the era when I was growing up, how it all ties in to the racism that is part and parcel of our grand land today. White people, you especially need to get curious. Join me in this research, and you'll find that people are willing and able to come in with their education and their experience to help you learn. You just have to be open to it. You need to be willing to be uncomfortable.
So nobody likes, they're talking about the white woman, slavery did exist. I mean, but slavery was bad. It was bad. And until I see none of you people want to admit that slaves built this country, their patents were stolen, they built all these nice plantations. What was that last plantation that went up in flames down there and they had the party? Oh, the slaves built that nice plantation, that nice ballroom with no engineering degrees. They put chandeliers, nice floors. Oh, they kept that stuff up for the slave owners. And they built it just like they built the White House. Slaves built the United States of America. And until you are forced, until you can deal with that, then there will always be an issue. Until anybody can say slaves built this country for free labor. Inventions, patents, everything was stolen. We built this country and we raised your kids, and you did everything to us, separated us, did everything. Yes, slavery was bad. Slavery was bad. There is nothing, nothing 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 that anybody could say. Slaves built this country, and that's part of history for free. They got free labor from us. They didn't pay the slaves. So they were slaves. It was bad. And even if it is 2025, we know it's 2025. But the history is slaves built this country. They built that White House. Ta-da. So, again, slaves built this country. They worked the land for free. They picked the cotton. They did the tobacco fields. They got free laborers. They built houses for the slave owners. They worked for free. For free. So, slavery was bad. Slavery existed. And no matter how you want to argue about it, it existed and it was bad. End of story. And they were not paid, rewarded, given anything. Nothing. 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 And the history was bad. Okay. So, so to you, President-elect Donald J. Trump, slavery was bad. It's part of history. Don't try to whitewash it. And whatever you plan on doing to make America okay or great again, which I don't, I need to know when was America so great, make it great again. When inflation and the cost of living is here. When has inflation go down? The cost of living has gone down. A 1-bedroom apartment is $2,500 to $3,000. So again, the show is slavery was bad. It was bad. There's nothing that um, nobody can say. I mean, we're not even arguing. Slavery was bad. It was bad, but it's part of history. And so when you try to say, um, like, how do you how do you make slavery good? Because it was bad. It was bad. It's part of history. But Trump wants the museum to change its tone because Donald Trump said slavery wasn't that bad. It makes slavery look bad. That's what he said. That's what he said. That's what Trump said. He said the museum makes it seem like slavery was bad. And it was. I mean, he says, it makes slavery. He wants the museum to come up with some kind of way because it makes slavery look bad. Thank you, Ryder. Because every time I go to the store, I haven't seen anything go down.
Wait, if you were locked up in Illinois juvie at Cook County, the Audi home, or anywhere else in the system, this is the money.
800 National Guard soldiers have rolled into Washington, D.C. after President Trump ordered a federal takeover in the nation's capital. Trump says the move is to address rising crime rates, but crime in D.C. is actually
not going out for McDonald's. You're the Washington Convention Center.
Operation possible, and that we are removing as many criminals from the street.
oppressive. The Smithsonian says it's always conferred with experts before adding a presentation. Of American history. It's the Wall Street Journal reporting that the White House is reviewing all Smithsonian materials with the goal of aligning the institution's content with Trump's interpretation of American history. Trump issued an executive order to do this in late March, and he says the Smithsonian, quote, promoted narratives that portray American and Western values as inherently harmful and oppressive. The Smithsonian says it's always conferred with experts before adding a presentation.
Trump wants to rewrite history.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. We end today's show looking at plans by the White House for a far-reaching review of Smithsonian Museum exhibitions in order to ensure they align with President Trump's interpretation of U.S. history. That's according to the Wall Street Journal, which obtained a letter from a White House official instructing that Smithsonian exhibits could be, quote, accurate, patriotic, and enlightening, ensuring they remain places of learning, wonder, and national pride for generations to come, unquote. In March, the president signed an executive order directing officials to eliminate, quote, improper, divisive, or anti-American, unquote, ideology from its museums. This latest plan comes after the Smithsonian removed references to his two impeachments during his first term in office. Press for details. This is President Trump speaking last week during the signing of an executive order.
Seems to talk about the history of our country in a fair manner, not in a woke manner or in a racist manner, which is what many of them, not all of them, but many of them are doing. Our museums have an obligation to represent what happened in our country over the years, good and bad, but what happened over the years in an accurate way.
The Smithsonian has said they have returned the references to Trump's impeachment. For more, we're joined by Annette Gordon-Reed, a Harvard history professor and president of the Organization of American Historians. She is the Pulitzer Prize-winning author of the book, The Hemingses of Monticello, An American Family, and her most recent book is titled On Juneteenth. Professor, welcome to Democracy Now! It's an honor to have you with us. Let's begin with the Smithsonian, and of course, also so significantly, what's happening to the Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture.
Well, it's something of a not a shock, because we see other things that are happening at the same time, but the idea that the Smithsonian, which was created as an independent entity, should reflect any administration's vision of history and not the vision of the historians and the researchers and the other people who devote their lives to studying these things is more than problematic, I would say. So it's not a shock, because we can see what's happening in other arenas, but it is something that's a departure from what should be expected, what is right, actually.
Talk about the founding of this museum, what it took, and how interesting. I mean, years ago, I did an interview with Lonnie Bunch, who was the founding head of the African American Museum of the Smithsonian, who then was elevated to be head, as he is today, of all the Smithsonian museums, and what this means to President Trump.
Well, I think there's an attempt to shape the narrative of history. As we know, history is political in many ways, and this is an opportunity he feels, the administration feels, to put his stamp on the way we tell the story of America. And I don't think that this is something that the American people want. We see survey after survey that indicates that people support the idea of a capacious and a truthful, unvarnished picture of American history, because that's the only way to figure out what happened in the past. There's no way to learn if you don't know what actually happened.
I want to go to an issue of curriculum in this country that also will affect the Smithsonian museums. Starting this school year in Oklahoma, teachers must earn a teaching certificate to be able to teach in the public schools of Oklahoma this school year. And what an Oklahoma school official says will keep away woke indoctrinators. The assessment was designed by PragerU, a conservative media company, the talk show host Dennis Prager's company, whose educational materials have been approved for use in public schools already in 10 states, including Arizona, Florida, Texas, New Hampshire, and Louisiana. One of their recent videos, which kids are shown, which has gone viral, features a cartoon of Christopher Columbus downplaying and justifying the practice of slavery.
Slavery is as old as time and has taken place in every corner of the world, even amongst the people I just left. Being taken as a slave is better than being killed, no?
Being taken as a slave is being better than being killed, no?
as if also they're mutually exclusive. Annette Gordon-Reed, can you talk about what is being taught here that kids are being subjected to and the larger thread? And if you feel it's a white supremacist take on history?
Well, it's an attempt to play down or downplay what happened in the United States with slavery. Of course, slavery has existed since biblical times. People know that. That's not something that has never been acknowledged. But the question is, how did it play out in North America from American history? How did we do it? What effect did it have on the people who were enslaved, and what legacies are still there? This is a way of trying to prove that nothing bad happened to African American people, that there's no reason for any kind of redress, that there's no reason to pay any attention to the legacies of slavery. So this is something that they've long wanted to achieve, and because they are in political ascendancy at this moment, that they can do it. But this is a whitewashing of history. And the guise of making white children feel better about themselves. I mean, the thinking is that they feel guilty. And
so they want to whitewash Black history. You know, they want to say slavery wasn't bad. Slavery was bad. Yeah. And so anyway, slavery was bad. And I want to thank everybody that came in this show. This show was just to say slavery was bad. Slaves built this country. That's it. That's all. And, you know, inflation is high. It's 2025. People are homeless now. We have more, you know, it's a whole lot going on. America does not care about the American people. I'm going to keep going with that. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, they wanna erase history. That's what I came on here. Slavery was bad. Trump's exact words was, they're saying that slavery, he's trying to say slavery wasn't bad. Yeah, it was bad. They want to erase the history. Yeah. And so that's what the show was about. Slavery was bad. Had to remind Trump just what slavery was about. You know. And so, you know, you can't. Slavery was bad. Slavery happened. And it's part of history. I don't. Yeah. And so, again, slavery was bad. President-elect Donald J. Trump. There's nothing you can do. It did happen. You can't change history. Uh, yeah. So, hey, Ryder, how you doing?
Blessings, Miss April.
Ryder. Hey, girl. You know, this show was about Trump saying the museums. He wants them to do something because they're showing slavery as bad. Yeah, Trump, slavery was bad. It was bad. You're trying to rewrite history. You can't rewrite history.
I mean,
It
I
was
think
bad.
they've been trying to rewrite history for a minute. It doesn't matter what president comes into office.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not sure if you're dealing with trolls or not, but you're spitting some facts. It's just the way you're putting your words. But I get what you're saying, and I understand you. I definitely do understand you. So it's
Who
like,
is that?
huh?
Oh, girl, I don't know who have these people. I ain't never had this many people come in here. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but see, you gotta realize something. It's 2025. Half the people don't really care about this for real, for real. Like some
Yeah.
people is just mad at the mirror. Like let's get one thing straight, right? Slavery was bad, right? Not complicated, not a product of its time, bad period. And the fact that I even have to say that out loud in 2025 tells you everything about the system we're living under, right? Because it's not broken; it's doing exactly what it's meant to do. Like they want to
Mhm.
erase history like it's a typo, but this isn't a spelling error;
Mhm.
it's a blueprint for oppression, exploitation, and
Yeah.
denial. All right, and guess what? We still living in a house that we still living in the house that blueprint built. So it's like,
Yeah.
so when someone takes the time to research, to speak truth, to connect the dots, people get mad, right? But what's crazy is they get mad at the messenger instead of the message, mad at the mirror instead of the monster. Like some people just need to pick up a book instead of picking up their feelings because I get it. It's discomfort. Right? Like how can I say? People's discomfort doesn't outweigh our history. You see where I'm coming from? Denial
All
doesn't
right.
erase our trauma, and people's silence is basically that's complicity in HD. That's it. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Sometimes how we be saying certain stuff like it seems like you attracted a whole bunch of trolls. I'm not sure. I'm not saying they're
Girl,
all against
no, they
you.
just come in here because I said slaves built this country, and we did. We built this country. We built this country. We came over here in shackles on ships, and slavery was bad. Other people had a choice to come over here. So I don't want to hear nothing. They had a choice. Yeah. But slavery was bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Hmm.
some real shit. Like the real questions are like, why is truth considered how can I say divisive, right? Only when it exposes power. Like, who benefits when history is watered down or whitewashed, as you call it, right? Or wiped
Yeah,
out. Like,
yeah,
if
you're
the
trying to whitewash black history. Slavery was bad. We built this country. All of the inventions, most were discovered by slaves. The slave owners are different people, stole the patents of the inventions.
April, people gotta realize, all right, we living under a system that wasn't, built for us. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
you see, where I'm coming
And
from like
so,
if the
yeah,
system if the system wasn't built for liberation, why are we still trying to survive inside it? Like we
yeah,
have to, how can I say, we have to come together, right? But in order, to do that, we have to figure out ways on how to fix the broken infrastructure that was passed on down to us. Right? And I'm
yeah,
I'm a younger generation than you. You understand where I'm coming from,
yeah,
all right? So, like I tell people, this isn't about guilt. It's about accountability. This isn't about blame. It's
Right.
about
And like I'm saying, that's part of history. Now, what are we going to do now in 2025? We know all of this. But if you're not willing to deal with history, how can you even prepare for a future? You still want to keep the dividing going. I mean, what's so hard to say slaves built this country? What's so hard to say we never did get our 40 acres and a mule? Everybody got
and
something.
we not gonna get it.
Oh
That's
no,
why
we're
we
not gonna get it. We're not
that's why
gonna
we
get
have
it.
to find ways.
America will never say that because do you know how many those presidents had their mistresses and their outside kids living in the White House in the slave quarters? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Like,
facts, realist. I get what you're coming from, but I get where Miss April's coming from. Like, you see where I'm coming from. Her message is a
yeah,
little old school. You see, so that's why I hopped on here, real quick. All right, and
yeah,
I'm not speaking for everybody. All right, like I know Miss
yeah.
April Showers lives ain't meant for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but if y'all are a part of the solution, seeking, ways on how to
Yeah,
improve, how can
yeah.
I
What are
say
you gonna
your
do to
homes?
improve? I
You
mean,
have to
if
find. You have to
this
start at
is
home.
why people come in here, you want to call me a moron and say I'm on drugs because of the fact I say slavery was bad. Yes, it was bad. It was bad. It was not good. What can you do? But there's nothing you can do to other than what do you how you gonna water down slavery? I mean, it was bad. It happened.
Here's the thing, right? We stop having conversations like what we're doing now, like you're doing. Where
Yeah,
does you see where I'm coming from? It
yeah,
starts at home. Like
right.
before you come online, you have to make sure that the structure in your home is good. Before you try to help somebody else out there, make sure that the structure in your home is good. How can you help someone else right out when you're failing at home? You're supposed
Yeah.
to be the leader first at home before you're trying to be a leader
Mhm.
of anything else.
Yeah,
That's why I
well,
said we
I'm a
gotta
leader.
fix
I'm a
the
leader
broke.
in my community. I'm a leader with people. I like people of all races, color, and creed. I know what my people did for this country, what we didn't. I don't hold nobody responsible for what happened in the past, but I do hold you responsible for what's going on in the future. And what I'm seeing right now with a homeless inflation situation.
That's a fact. That's some real shit. And unfortunately, we got people offended by, when people say certain things like that. And if you're, how can I say it? If you're more offended by the fact than the injustice they reveal, right? You're not woke. You're just wallpaper. All right. So yeah, slavery was
Yeah,
bad, but what's worse is pretending it's over. You see where I'm coming from? Because
right,
yeah, we're not slaves. We're free slaves.
right.
All
We're
right.
still free slaves. There's
Like the
still
system,
injustices against us. There's
and with
still, you know,
we
you,
can't keep living in the past. People have, how can I say, people have sat here,
and
right?
nobody,
And
nobody is living in the
no,
past.
not you, not
I'm,
you. Wait, hold on,
yeah,
Miss. Wait, you just cut me off. Hold on, Miss. April.
okay, I'm gonna
I'm
shut
trying
up.
to help you out.
Okay,
All right. All right, like a lot of people are, right? You see where I'm coming from? That's why
yeah,
all of this is happening. People travel back in time to learn the history, but they stay stuck in it instead of reading the blueprint that was handed down to us. So we're
yeah,
still passing on down pain. You see where I'm
yeah,
coming from? That's going
yeah.
down from generation to generation. So we're creating more shackles. We're the ones that have to change. Why do you think that people, all over look at us the way they look at us? You see where I'm coming from? It starts with us.
Mhm.
But we're so we're like, I'm not gonna say we are, all right. A lot of people are so stuck following trends. You see where I'm coming from? Following
Mhm.
other people, making celebrities more famous than turning around complaining about the same shit they fucking feed. Like, listen, like I'm gonna tell people, listen, the system didn't die, all right? It got Wi-Fi. Slavery wasn't just a chapter; it was the preface of the system we live in now. And while they teach us to mourn the chains, all right, they never teach us to recognize the new ones. All right, they taught us to share everything except for the pain. All right, that shit just lingers in the shadows. So that's why I said it's good that you have these type of lives. I get where you're coming from. You see where I'm coming from? Because,
Hmm.
I have family like you. Like, you see where I'm coming from? We come from the same type of communities. So I
Yeah.
understand you. But not everybody's going to get the message you're trying to put out
I
there.
don't care if they get it or not. They can leave, or they could come in here
Right?
and make their
Oh, you ain't
comment.
lying? Listen, for those that feel offended by what Miss April Showers said, look, the door's right there, all right? Exit
Yeah.
left. Just make sure
And
the doorknob doesn't
I
hit you with a
blocked
good
one
Lord
person.
flick.
Then I thought, I don't care because I'm going to still keep saying what I'm saying. You can come in here. They want to say, oh, you must not have your drugs. Or you must be this. And you don't know what you're talking about. No, I know what I'm talking about. I know who built this country. I know who we was brought over here in shackles. I don't even know if I don't even know where the hell I come from, okay? Because we
I
were
do.
dispersed to the four corners of earth. But slaves were brought over here on slave ships and they worked this land for free, okay?
Mhm.
And for free, they built this country. They
That's a
built
fact.
this country. Slaves built this country. Slaves built this country on free labor. They built this country. They got nothing for it but a hard way to go.
Yeah, you ain't lying. See, the thing is,
With a hard way to go.
Miss April. See, because they don't see plantations, right? They think that plantations vanished. Plantations didn't vanish, all right? It got
That
rebranded. Now
one
it's
just
called.
that
Listen,
one down there in Louisiana just burned up. What
no, but
was it?
listen. The
Hmm.
plantations they got rebranded and people don't even peep that they've been rebranded. All right, now they're called low income housing. All right, underfunded
Yeah,
schools, mandatory
yeah,
minimums, algorithm. How can I say algorithm algorithmic bias and
yeah,
corporate exploitation, and we don't see color here. All right, like, oh,
yeah.
you don't see color.
The
Funny how
hood.
the system does. Every time it decides who gets stopped, searched, suspended, or sentenced, y'all mad at people for speaking truth, but not mad at the system that profits off silence. Well, I'm gonna say people. How can I say the ones running? All right, the ones within the system. All right, sitting here getting fed off that shit. All right, they get their. How can I say they're feeding off this diversion, this diversity? All right, they're feeding on how we're coming at each other, black and brown. It doesn't fucking matter. All right? Like, y'all want peace, then stop defending the blueprint that was never designed for justice on some real shit.
Yeah. And then I played the video with the Caucasian lady, telling them about, you know, the 40 acres and the mules, slavery, what it was. And, they want to talk about her. Like, this happened. This happened. It
Hmm.
happened. Deal with it. Now, y'all want to say y'all want to end racism or this is 18, this is 2025? Well, tell me why there's still a homeless population. Tell me why they are cutting Section 8. Tell me why people in the federal government, the veterans, people that fought for this country, are homeless and they have no resources available for them. See, that's what
That's
I'm
fact.
saying. They're not
It's true.
mad about what's happening even in 2025.
See, well, see, that's the problem. You're right. They don't care. But
You
it's
know,
because a lot of people are
America does
a
not
lot.
care about its people. They care about keeping their pockets lined. They keep us controlled. There is not going to be a middle class. It's going to be rich and poor.
Yep.
There are not going to be any resources to help you. They want to tell you what you can eat. If taxpayers are on food stamps, the math ain't adding up.
Listen, people need to start asking themselves if slavery ended, why does the economy still run on underpaid labor and stolen land? Why do we call it history when the same dynamics are coded into our tech laws and schools? Who gets to decide
Yeah,
which truths are, how can I say, who gets to decide which truths are too decisive to teach? Like, y'all want unity, start with truth, all right? Not the Santa, how can I say, sanitized, how can I say, sanitized version, not the how can I both sides nonsense, not the real raw uncomfortable truth. Like we gotta be out there bold. All right, no hairs in your tongue. All right, no filters in your mouth. For real, for real. Like if
yeah.
people are uncomfortable, I mean, if people feel, how can I say?
And why
I'm
isn't
gonna put it like this.
minimum wage? It should be at least $18 to $20 to keep up. So these people that's working for all of these factories are still being underpaid. They don't even have benefits, pension plans.
It's welcome to America, land of the free, where you gotta pay for water. You're gonna get 80.
United States of America is what it is. This country was built on a lie, and it's going to stay a lie. And
Listen,
nobody wants to look at the truth.
I was
This
taught that
is
if you're
what? Huh?
I was taught that if you're more committed to comfort and correction, you're not helping. You're holding the door open for oppression.
Can you say
That's
that one more time, Ryder?
I said, if you're more committed to comfort than correction, you're not helping. You're holding the door open for oppression. And that's some
Right,
real shit.
right, right.
So like I said,
So,
like we're not gonna be able to get no unity until, we are able to figure out how to fix the broken infrastructure that was passed on down. Like I said, passed on down. All right. Our ancestors went through the slavery. Some of our grandparents, all right, the last slave was still alive in 1966, if I'm not mistaken. All
yeah,
right. Or was some shit like that. If I'm not mistaken,
yeah.
I gotta go back into it. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but I know I'm on point with what I'm saying.
My
All right.
great grandmother
So
was like, yeah,
like I know it's a few years back, but we're only in 2025. What I'm trying to say is, all right, they fought for what they fought for, and we forgot the blueprint they left behind. We say we're doing all this for the culture, but our ancestors, they got to be rolling around in circles, all right, in their grave right now, for the simple
good.
fact that some of us forgot to read the blueprint. Why? Because it was not in no history books. It's not in no goddamn Bible. And I listen, I'm not trying. I didn't say it like that to offend anybody. All right. It's just that I'm passionate about what I'm saying. It's not. It was passed down through words, and some of us didn't listen. So yeah, that's why it's so easy to erase history, because real history is not in a damn book. I
Yep.
apologize.
You got a right to your feelings. But yeah, a lot of our history was oral because they didn't know how to read and write, to put it down.
And they had they braided a lot of our ancestors and a lot of our great grandparents and grandparents had to braid messages through. I mean, had to put messages through braids. So let's be
Yeah.
real and listen. My tribe is I'm Taino, all right. And if it wasn't for the West Moor, the what? How can I say the Moorish, all right, and the West Africans saving the Tainos, boom, us right here, descendants wouldn't be here. All right, and I think it was the Arawaks, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. Then because the Arawaks were first, then the Tainos came out of the Arawaks. Whatever, but y'all get my whole point. I know my fucking heritage. All right, I know where I
Yeah.
come from. I know my
Yeah.
history. Point blank. Period.
Mhm.
So it's like you got to know where you come from first, and a lot of us don't even know what our roots are. We really don't.
Baby Pharaoh. Yeah. And
Facts,
so you
whoever that is. The Bible
yeah,
was passed down through words too. Facts.
yeah. So and those are a lot of stuff, like I said, was oral and some people wrote it down. But like I say, a lot of us, you know, can still say, like, I don't know. My people couldn't have came over here on no ships.
It's possible because you got the people that were, chained up and put on boats and brought over here, and then you got the ones that were
Hmm.
already here. There were people already here. You see where I'm coming
Hmm.
from? So people don't understand
They
that
make
part.
it seem like all black people came from Africa, and that's not true
Mm-mm.
neither.
Mm-mm.
That's not true. Some people were right here in the United States of America, already here,
Yup.
and they still made them slaves because they were black.
Well, yeah. How do
And
you
if
think
they
that?
lived in the southern states and you were black, you were a slave.
How do people think that the Moors ended up on Africa and all parts of the Caribbean? How do y'all think that the Moors was able to get together with the West Africans and save the Tainos? Let's make it
Yeah.
make sense. They mixed and mingled too. That's how you got Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Colombians, Haitians, Dominicans,
Hmm.
Moors, West Africans, and Tainos mixing and mingling. Boom. Okay, here we are, descendants of that. Speaking up, 2025. All right.
Yep.
So I'm just telling y'all, like, all right, not everybody in America, was chained up from Africa and all them places and brought over here. People from
No.
America were chained up and took over there too.
Yeah.
I mean, some people just came. All right, so let's not leave that out. See, because I talk about this on my lives too. Some people came. All right, some people came, but why did they come? Did y'all ask that
And
question?
we
Why
do
did they
know
leave?
black
Where?
owned slaves too. We know that.
Yeah, black people
I
own
know
slaves
black
too.
people own slaves.
Yeah,
I
I got a
know that.
video uploaded on mine. What was his name? Let me
Yeah.
see. There was
Yeah.
one
Black
famous black.
people own slaves. We know that.
Yeah, here you go.
We
Let
know
me
that.
see.
And we can deal with that. We can say, yeah, we know our black people own slaves too. But
Hmm.
they want to act like slavery wasn't bad. You know, uh, uh, again, like I say, make it make sense. Make
Can't.
it make sense. We built this country, and it don't matter if you came over here on a ship from Africa or if you were here, you were living in the southern states, you were a slave. Okay. Well, I'm glad. Yeah.
Oh,
And
blessings to
so,
you.
yeah, like I said, the whole conversation is President Trump wants the Smithsonian Museums to restructure how they do their presentations because it makes slavery look bad. Well, slavery was bad. How do you make slavery look good? That's
I
the
don't know.
whole. Yeah, yeah.
B Sparrow speaking some facts on some real shit.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
B Sparrow on point. B Sparrow doing. See, that's why I said some people need to pick up a book and do their history before they end up in a ditch making history.
yeah. Yeah.
Listen,
Black
I'm
people,
going to
we
be a.
know that, you know, but, and this is what I'm saying. These people, they come in here tonight. Girl, that's why I say I wasn't gonna even entertain them. I kept on with what I said. Slavery was bad. We built this country for free. They stole our patents. We didn't get our 40 acres and a mule.
Yep.
That was promised to us. I don't care nothing. It's not the migrants' fault that the government opened up this country for them to come over here and live free. I ain't got no issues with them. I got issues with our government allowing them to come over here. Now, see, I don't even know the difference between chattel slavery and indentured slavery.
It's a
Hell,
lot.
what is that?
People got to go do their research. It is a big difference, right? And you're speaking facts on what you said about the immigrants, right? Because what's crazy is, right, Biden and Kamala was the one that let this get real far, right?
And the
Um,
homeless situation went up from 2022 to 2024 while they were allowing the migrants to come over here. The
yeah,
homeless situation went up, rose 32.9% while
no,
they
not
were
just
letting people come
not
to
just
this
that.
country.
Not just that, right? And I'm not coming at every immigrant, right? Because it's crazy, right? There's a difference between being here illegal and being here legally, all right? And that's what I was trying to say before Ms. April said what she said, right? When Biden and Kamala did what they did, right, there were people still at the top of a waiting list waiting to come here legally. And when they did that, their chances of coming over here lowered. You see where I'm coming from? And it's
Mhm.
fucked up as shit because those people over here, yeah, they came, they work for a lower pay wage. They really do. They don't get paid as much as we do. You see where I'm coming from? But what happened was they let all the immigrants come in, right? Listen, it's more to this, but I'm not allowed to say it because I already got censored once. All right, so I have to try to work around this real quick. All right, to get the
Yeah,
message
girl,
out there.
don't.
Um,
Yeah.
so basically, yeah, no, I know what to do now.
Okay.
Basically, right? Basically, I'm gonna put it like this. All right, just like the pandemic, all right, is another plan. All right, all this, it's a distraction for us. All right, they're gonna fix all this. Trump is gonna fix all this. It's just a way of them getting richer. All right, making a long story shorter. All right, they're not the immigrants, the legal immigrants ain't gonna suffer for long. It's just a little ace up their sleeves to make more money. You see how they're taking all the illegal immigrants out, saying this, saying that. But once they get rid of all the illegal immigrants they get out, you see where I'm coming from? All the legal ones will be able to go back into these factories and work because at the end of the day, Trump is going to get a cut. All right. The system, the people within the system gets a cut. All right. And that's the best way I could say it without saying too much. And I'm hoping y'all understand where I'm coming from.
I
All
know
right. It's
exactly
all
what you're
profit.
saying.
It's all profit.
Everybody profited. All of
Mm-hmm.
these sanctuary cities, I mean, Chicago asked for $70 million when those migrants came there, and they got it. Where did $70 million go?
All
Well,
right.
the workers took half of it from the mayor, allegedly.
You
From the
see that?
mayor, everybody on city council, everybody that voted. Just like
Oh,
everybody that voted for money to
Trump.
go. Girl, look, you know
Trump's
what?
budget cut affected everything. On some real shit, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. And B Sparrow was speaking some facts. I'm about to read it to you, Miss April Showers. But B Sparrow,
Okay.
I have to, switch a word up real quick. All right. It starts from up here. She said she's breaking it down for you. All right. The ancestors went through shadow slavery, grapes, beating, hangings, separation of families, etc. All right, then indentured slavery, basically where workers paying off a debt, they were free to move about, unlike the ancestors who couldn't move around without their masters. And that's why I said what I said, and I keep constantly saying it through my lives and everywhere I go. All right, we are not slaves. All right, our grandparents, great grandparents, on up, those generations were slaves to a system. All right, we're in the same system they was. All right. The only problem is that the generation before us, or probably the generation before that. I don't know if they was trying to sugarcoat it. All right. I don't know if they forgot the blueprint. All right. They forgot to pass it down to us. So some of us were growing up blind to the facts, believing what we were being taught in these schools until we grew up. Boom, this generation right now trying to bring awareness the best way we can with the best information that has either been passed down to us or what we had to re-educate ourselves with. So we have to go out there and do our own research because when it comes to these schools, all right, and I'm not saying that schools don't teach us, they do, but they'll twist up the truth, take away and add to it. And I'm hoping y'all
Well,
understand
yeah,
what I mean
that's
by that.
like, they had on it, you know, like the biggest lie told, Christopher Columbus discovered
Mm-hmm.
America. The biggest lie ever told, America was already here. And
Facts.
remember that conjunction, junction, watch your function, shows that used to come on when I was growing up. Uh, when they talked about the Emancipation Proc- Proclamation.
I didn't
You
get
know,
that when I was growing up.
yeah,
See, my shows were a little different. They were already sugarcoating this shit. Remember, I grew up with PBS Kids, ABC, the morning cartoons, right? I still grew up with the
yeah,
old stuff, but what was
yeah,
being thrown and shoved in our faces was completely different to what was being taught to y'all.
right,
Then the
right.
parents didn't help. You see where I'm coming from? I guess
Yeah,
our parents
Schoolhouse
thought,
Rock. That's what it was, B Sparrow. See, we had Schoolhouse Rock when we were coming up.
and
And they used to tell you all of these stories. Christopher Columbus discovered America, and then they would talk about it, but then
did
you
they was
come to
too.
find out he did discover America. America was already in. This country
Yeah,
was built on a lie. Everybody knows that.
but then,
Everybody knows Christopher Columbus did not discover America, but y'all have a hard time. They didn't even want the man's statues. He came over here. They came over here torturing people that were already living here.
but you know that, at the end that also kind of backfired on Christopher Columbus, and they don't speak about that, right? On how the truth and reality, right? It was Ponce de Leon, but what y'all did, what they did, either way, whether it was Christopher Columbus or it was Ponce de Leon, you see where I'm coming from? That did these
Right.
little adventures and it was on a boat. Y'all still sat here and stole land from people that was already here. It doesn't matter. The biggest lie that Christopher Columbus ever said was that he discovered America, when in reality, allegedly, according, if they did discover it, which was stolen land, but it was Ponce de Leon. How you telling another man's story?
I know.
You see my point?
Hmm.
'Cause, like, if people look into the story of Christopher Columbus, that shit backfired on him. What the Queen did to him, how they got mad at him, all that shit.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, y'all gotta look deep
Hmm.
into this story. People don't even know the truth to it behind it. Like,
Right.
it
That's
was a
what I'm
lie covering
saying.
a lie. It's the funny part how y'all believe the lie covering a lie.
But you want to get mad at me when I say slavery was bad and we built this country and you stole our patents and inventions. Girl, you can't make this stuff up. That's why it'll never be any unity because what's so hard with saying y'all built this country? Slaves built the country. Slaves built that White House that they living in.
You ain't like, yo, listen, America said land of the free, then hit us with a subscription fee. Freedom plus now with ads. You got to pay for water, pay for air, and if you want peace of mind, that's behind a paywall too. All right, they got us financing our own oppression like it's a student loan, and guess what? No forgiveness there either. All right, freedom here
Yeah.
is like Costco membership. Sounds good till you realize you still gotta
Yeah.
pay for everything inside. On some
Yeah.
real shit. Yo, they don't understand it, yo.
I'm
Like,
just trying to think.
but
You
see, the
know,
problem is, Miss, you know what it is, Miss April Showers? All right, we need to remember this is their system, not ours. All right. It
Right.
was built for us. I mean, it wasn't built for us. All right. It wasn't built by us. All right. I'm being a little extra. All right. Like a little dramatic there. All
Okay.
right.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
sure as hell wasn't built to protect us. So why do we keep trying to fix a house that was never ours to begin with? You see my point? Our ancestors did build
Right.
a system. They built a blueprint. They left it behind. They taught us what to do, how to do it, when to do it, but we didn't get the message. Our generations got the message fucked up and screwed up until we grew up. The generation behind us didn't know how to pass that generation. I can't blame this April Showers because I think she's a generation behind the generation behind the one I'm talking. All right. And I don't know this. All right. She's just older. All right. She's not 50. She's not in her 40s. All right. So she's not the generation
I'm
behind me.
63.
All
I'm
right. See, she's in her 60s.
63.
So she's in there. I got to include her in there somehow. No, I can't because she's 63. So she's into the generation behind me. All right. As crazy as it sounds, I don't know if y'all understand. All right, her generation should be walking right now, right, into the shoes of the elders that are not here no more. I don't know if
That's
y'all
what
get
I'm
what I'm trying
trying
to
to
say.
do. That's what B Sparrow and I were trying to do with our shows and spread our knowledge. It's our duty to
Exactly.
tell the knowledge. That's why I was sitting here saying, my people built this country. They
Hmm.
stole their patents.
Now, yeah, and I told you said some facts. I said, well, let me come up and help you real quick because
Yeah.
we live in an era where now we're
Let me
talking.
remind y'all of how powerful my people were. They did not have college educations. They did not
Hmm.
have college degrees. It's in you. We built this country. We built the nice plantations with no engineering degrees, no nothing. Okay?
That's a fact. So what Miss April Shaw was saying that, right? Guys, let's ask ourselves, how do we build our own? One that heals us, uplifts us, protects our kids, and doesn't need permission from the very people who profit our pain. All right. And don't tell me it can't be done. Because look at the Amish, all right? And I said this earlier on my live. Everything I'm telling you is something I said prior. All right. The Amish, they built a whole community. No Wi-Fi, no TikTok, no surveillance capitalism. All right. That's how it's supposed to be. So sometimes I wonder if the Amish we see online, all right, are real Amish. And they're thriving. All right. So why do we say we can't? Who told us that? Who benefits from us believing that lie? Because the truth is we got the wisdom, the skills, the ancestors, and the recipes. All right. What we don't have is the luxury of waiting. It's time to stop begging for a seat at their table and start building our own with no
Oh
strings
my
unturned,
God, girl, they
no
don't want
script,
us
and
at
no
their
apology.
table. And why do we want to be at their tables? We can have our own.
Exactly. As long as we don't fuck with their system, we could build our own little blueprint. You see where I'm coming from? Like, it's crazy as it sounds. Like, listen, I wasn't brought up in a community that was, you know, just one race, one ethnicity. My community is mixed, different ethnicities, different cultures, different heritage. All right. And we all got along just fine until I would say like the mid 2000s. All right. Around 2014, 2015, shit around here started changing. All right. And I'm in a place where, there are communities of just black, of just Hispanics, of just whites, of just Asians, just Mexicans. You see where I'm coming from?
Right.
Like
Well,
there are
that's
that.
the same way I grew up. Joliet was a steel workers town. It had Caterpillar, the steel mill. My parents, they were steel mill workers. So I grew up with people of all races.
And that's the problem. Whoever GJ34 is, that's why we said
Yeah.
we have to fix the broken infrastructure that was passed
And
on
that's why I had to
down.
tell kids don't do drugs. Don't even try them. Don't do like I did.
We can't fix nothing, right? We can't, how can I say, improve anything until we fix, I mean, we can't change nothing until we find ways to improve, all right, the things that are happening around us, all right, because we can't change the system. It's already there, all right? And that system wasn't built for us. Yes, our ancestors built the country, but they did not build the system.
And the system isn't for us.
So
The
let's make it make
system
sense.
is not for us. The system ain't for it really ain't for nobody but these entitled rich
What's
people. They've
facts?
showed you.
What's funny is
They've
I hear
showed
people.
you.
Listen, I hear a lot of old heads say, "Well, even though it was slavery time, right? Because I used to be a health aide, right? I have been out, the field for 2 years already since I got into the accident. But I used to hear the stories, right? There was this one head I used to take care of, and she was actually in the march with Martin Luther King, and she was there with Malcolm X. She got pictures, she got videos. You see where I'm coming from? And everything is
Hmm.
old school. It's like to me, it was like she blew my mind with the stories and everything. And the crazy part about it is she's got receipts behind everything she was telling me. All right. So as crazy as it may sound, right? Listening to her talk, right, and not just her but other people, and she's not here. May she, rest in peace. She was this old head that was bedbound, right? And this was like 4 years ago. I'm gonna say I had this conversation with this lady, and she passed away 3 years ago, right? Um, and to tell you the truth, like to hear people say that they felt better even though they were slaves back then than what they do now because they feel like they're so lost. She said I hear people say old heads, like whether they men, they women, you see where I'm coming from, say that even though they were slaves, there was more unity back then, right? And what I
They
hear them
stuck
complain about
together.
is how
They
we're
looked
divided.
out for each other. Yes.
And that's one thing that I hear them saying they all got in common. All right, and I'm not talking about people in their 60s. All right, I'm talking about people that are right now in their 90s, probably 80s. All right,
Right.
and it's crazy. It's it's crazy as hell to say it. And I'm sitting here, it's like, yo, we're in 2025, and it feels like I'm in 1942. And I gotta say, it feels like because I've never been shackled, I've never been whipped. All right, I've never been owned,
But
never
you
had a
see the
master.
division. You see the division.
Exactly. But that's not the point. The point is that the way people are acting, it feels like we're puppets with strings attached to our backs. Like, you see where I'm coming from? All right.
Puppet masters,
E-
gatekeepers. It was all planned out.
Exactly. I'm like,
It
shit.
was
Like,
all built by design.
mm-hmm.
Everything from the music to everything, the drugs, the police, all of this. These
Fact.
people knew what they were going to do to my people. They knew what they were going to do. That's why they bought Martin Luther King in. Because,
Mm.
see, Malcolm was for us having our own. We would have had our own cities. We should have been separate. Martin Luther King realized he sent us into a burning building. He realized that. Instead of trying to be with be with them, we could have been separate. We could have been building our own cities. That's what Malcolm was doing. But they sent Martin to offset that.
Yep. People don't want to wake up. But like I said, man, like, people prefer
You
to be
know.
trolls.
And they don't want to realize the truth. And I try to make people understand. Like, I have nothing against nobody that came over here to this country because they had a choice and they got
Fact.
benefits. They get benefits. Some of them got free education. My people did not get a choice. They built this country. It was no choice. And even if you were here and living in the southern state, they made you a slave.
That's a fact. When you look at New
They,
York, all right, I think in certain parts of New York, if you look at, I think the bridges and stuff like that, not the bridges, across that
yeah,
separate the waters and stuff like that. I'm talking about, how they got those bridges, right, where certain trucks are a certain height, and they have them everywhere. But I think in New York they have it the most, right? And they're saying that they did that for a reason, right? And I'm sitting here, I was like, I'm looking back into it. I was like, oh shit. When I learned the history of how New York was built, I was like, that's fucked up. And yeah, it was based on our ancestors. The pain that they endured on some real shit was never really, how can I say,
coming over
explained.
here in that water.
It's not even
That's
that.
why,
It's the
yeah.
we were so confused growing up, and more our generation than the generation before us. That's why this generation is so fucked up. And I'm sorry to say it. And the generation before us
Girl, they
didn't
out
take
of
the time to listen. Like they wanted to break the chains of society and be who they wanted to be, but ended up falling into the trap. I'm not gonna sit here and lie.
and they made the traps. They made it with the rap music,
Yep,
the
they fell
drill
into it.
music.
They fell into the trap. People not
It's
seeing that
all
part.
built by design from the different. When you try to tell people, they gave Caucasian women and women of color different prenatal vitamins. These are all facts, people. You can go on the websites. Just
I
like they
mean,
tried
shit,
to say aliens didn't exist. Now they say they did exist.
they,
You
but
know,
you ain't
like
lying though. But listen, if people pay attention,
y'all got to realize the United States government has lied to us about so many things. We were controlled by their media. This was all built by design.
hmm but in order for you to be found, you must first be lost.
Yep.
That's some real shit. But Miss April Showers, I gotta get off this drum, man. This was a
Girl,
nice
me too,
conversation.
because I
But don't.
saw that. I'm going in the morning, girl. Kids going back to school. I'm
Yep.
gonna be greeting kids going back to school tomorrow, wishing them a great school year. Kids of all races, color, creeds. Like I say, I love all people, but I'm just concerned more about mine. You know, I've seen what has happened. You know, I don't know about them other people. I wasn't them. I'm talking about my culture.
Facts.
And I'm not mad. I want people to understand this. These people that came over here, played the system, worked for free, they all lived in a house, got their money together, sent half of it back home, helped their family. I'm not mad at y'all. But we wasn't given those chances, those
Mm-mm.
opportunities.
That's what I'm
I,
saying.
I,
That's
I do not dislike those people. It's not their fault that the government let them come over there. They probably hate me, but I have nothing against them. We're not mad at the migrants that came over here. We're mad at the government on how they played us. And this is another division.
yep.
Another division.
People not seeing that shit. Like, imagine
Another
if
division.
I'm gonna say this, right? If y'all gotta sit here and think about it, right, and take a minute to analyze it, right? Like, like Ms. April Shower said, nobody hates the immigrants at all because I said there's a difference between being here legal and illegally, right? So for those that came in here illegally, causing trouble and much more, right? But there's a lot that didn't cause trouble, all right? But the problem is this, all right? If everybody in America would have sat here and joined, right, fighting the presidents, the FBI, the CIA, ICE, all that shit. You see where I'm coming from? The mayors, the senator, right? What do y'all think would have been the next step if we would have all been fighting, especially back at the government, all right? Even though there's more of us, right, than there is them, they still got more weapons than us, than there is, than
Girl,
all of us.
girl, honey, we be, we be unalive, girl.
Exactly. That's what I'm like. That was the whole setup that people don't even understand. Y'all not
Yeah.
ready for martial law. Y'all not ready for that. And every test, y'all don't even peep it is a test they're throwing at us. It's one step closer for them to okay, now we gotta put martial law. We need the streets to be ran. It's already almost happening. You see where I'm coming from?
Well,
I mean, I don't
yeah,
know if it's
and,
a good
let
thing
me tell
or
you something. The way these kids acted, hell, I can't say I blame them.
Yeah, because I mean, look
I
at
mean,
how Trump is already threatening with the feds. He already started with Washington D.C. All right, and before he started with Washington D.C., people act so shocked and so surprised, like the man didn't tell us what he was going to do way before. You see where I'm coming from? He named the
girl,
cities.
when he was talking
Philly.
about going to Chicago, I was like, bring them. Because, girl, anytime I got family up there, they
He
get
named
up early, running errands, scared, they want to be in the house before it gets dark. They're shooting at funerals in broad
hmm
daylight,
just like
shooting
right
on
here.
highways. You damn right. Get them off the streets.
But then you got the governors and the mayors saying that crime is decreasing and all this. I'm like, no, it's not. It's skyrocketing. All right, the murder crimes, all that shit is skyrocketing. All right, I don't know if it's a good thing what he's doing. You see where I'm coming from? Reason why I say that. All right, because you got too many people in these streets, and not everybody is, how can I say, a part of the crime that's being committed out there. All right, because even here in Philly, I see how a lot of these men, and more men than women, all right, and it's a shame to say it, all right, all black and brown have to sit here and run, right? Some of them be on their phones, they could be smoking a cigarette. Yo, what you doing? They get stopped, they get frisked for no reason. They're not even selling drugs. But, and I don't want to turn it into a race thing because it really not. Cause see, because it happens to white, it happens to the Asians and all that stuff around here. But it's just
Mhm.
unfortunate that it's happening to what more the colored and brown, the colored men,
Yeah,
brown, dark, however you want to put it. All
people
right,
of
they
color.
do it the most. But what they people don't realize that it's white men, Puerto Rican men, black men, all right, in these corners selling drugs. It's not just black men. All right, so y'all better wake up and smell the coffee. So imagine if the feds gets into these hoods. We're not talking about Washington D.C. We know the crimes are high in Washington D.C. Yes, we know that for a fact. All right, the governor was saying no, it's not. Listen, don't bullshit me. We know the truth. All right, but the craziest part, imagine them hitting places like Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee. All right, all these places. I forgot which one. There's another one, Missouri, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's high in murder crimes and all that stuff, murder and in regular crimes. All right. Then you got Detroit. All right. You got Chicago. Then you got New York and Philadelphia. All these cities Trump mentioned way before he was elected that he was going to hit. Especially,
Mhm.
listen, I don't know if y'all remember when he almost got off out of here, right? He mentioned all these cities again, and he said he was going to get hard on them if we didn't figure out what to do. And he's
Yeah,
doing it.
he
He's
did.
keeping his word. He
That's
didn't
why,
lie.
and he said it. He said he was gonna open up. What's the name? He said all of that. Yeah.
So we can't keep acting surprised. All right, even though the electoral votes is what got Trump up there, a lot of y'all was flip flopping between Kamala and Trump until y'all figured out that Kamala was trying to do what she was trying to do with her policy, and y'all said fuck it, we only got Trump left, without realizing that y'all had other people in office too. But
Well,
y'all
girl,
wanted
I
Trump.
didn't vote for the No, I didn't vote for the president.
But they knew
I
who was already
voted
going
for
to go into
other things.
office based on how we go live. Y'all don't realize, all right, the Jetsons era is not coming. We in it. All right, futuristic stuff is
Well,
not coming.
first of
It's
all, ain't
here.
nobody getting ready to save us. We gotta save
Exactly.
ourselves.
Ain't no Sky Daddy
Ain't
coming from
no,
up there.
ain't none of these presidents gonna save us. Ain't none of these presidents getting ready to do nothing for us. Ain't not getting ready to give us reparations. We not getting ready to get anything. So you better start trying to live right, live life the right
hmm
way, do the right thing.
Facts. I mean, you
Cause
ain't lying, yo.
these people don't give a damn about us. They ain't getting ready to do nothing for us.
Nope.
You already got it in you. We built this country.
Y'all just
It's
gotta try to
already in everybody.
facts. Y'all gotta try to remember that blueprint. If you don't know that blueprint, y'all better research and figure out what your blueprint is. And guess what? Even though we're different tribes, we all got the same blueprint. Don't matter what tribe you're from. All right, all of our ancestors send a message by braiding,
Well, I
you know.
I don't even get into that. I'm like, what
No,
tribe?
but
Hell,
I'm
I don't
saying
even
it
know if
because
I want to
people.
belong to some of them tribes. Shit.
No, not everybody belongs to a tribe. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Listen, you got
Mhm.
people that are Moors, you got people that are, Africans, different types of Africans, all right? Then you got, let's not get to, the, what you call them, Europeans, the Vikings. I mean, I don't even know if the Vikings exist anymore. That's going a little further back into history. But I'm just putting it there, all right? So I'm talking in in a language that people can all understand, all right? Not just
Yeah,
one. I'm sorry, but I'm bringing it to this
I
generation
know.
right now. But like, listen, ain't none of that shit
Girl,
gonna
look what
happen.
we
Like,
got. We got somebody in here talking about they don't
oh,
they
we got
don't care
supremacists
about.
in here. Oh shit,
Girl, we got them, honey. Y'all come on.
we got Casper's uncle in the chat down there. We gotta figure
Mm-hmm.
out how to uncover the fucking cloth. But yeah,
Baby.
man, you speaking
Yeah,
some
but
facts. Don't stop joining your lives, Miss April. I'm about to get off
yeah.
this, John. But keep doing what you're
Okay,
doing, all right?
y'all. Well, I thank everybody for this show tonight. I thank all of you racist trolls for coming
I'm
in.
dead.
I thank all of y'all. Cause y'all not gonna move me. I'ma still keep saying what I say. We built this country on free labor. We built this country. They stole our patents. They stole our patents. They stole our generational wealth. This is April Showers. Thanks you, Ryder, for coming up tonight. My girl, we are going to bed because we be on YouTube 24/7, day and night. We talk about everything. Peace.
We out.